So, California is banning all gas vehicles or all new gas vehicle sales after 2035. What does that mean, really? So, number one, the ban itself only affects new vehicles sold in California after 2035. It does not affect used vehicles or vehicles bought from other states. But California being California often sends trends. If you look at, for example, the CARB or CAFE standards, those were later adopted by Oregon and a couple other states. So, now that California's done it, it's very likely that states like Oregon, Washington, could do the same. Because let's be honest, they're on fire. And this seems like something that might actually help. California is not in a position to enforce such a law at this particular moment in time, mainly because their infrastructure is critically damaged or not able to keep up with demand. Let's be realistic here. California gets hot. They don't even have enough power in their capacity in their grid to have everybody turn the AC on at the same time. They have to do rolling blackouts. So there's going to have to be massive investment into the actual power grid of the state of California. Oh, that's one thing. Their grid will need substantial amounts of work to be able to handle the load of, 200 million electric cars charging. Okay, so just to clarify, population in California is 39.4 million or something like that, right? So I guess that'd be roughly like what? I would say 20 million cars? I don't know, that sounds about right. The second thing is access to charging infrastructure itself. A lot of people in California don't live in their own home. They live in apartments or rented property. So there will have to be some kind of building requirement that require all apartments to have charging infrastructure. Like, your basic 110, 220 chargers. Without having your own home charger, to be honest, you're kind of handicapped. EVs would have to become substantially cheaper. Now, we've already been seeing an upward trend in rising EV sales, especially in states like California and New York, where fuel prices are quite a bit higher or heavily taxed. In my opinion, those are the three big hurdles to make this thing happen. As far as cost goes, it's not necessarily overly prohibitive. Granted, some of the cheapest electric cars would be the Tesla Model 3 and the Chevy Bolt that have a usable range of about 200 plus miles. If people are going to be buying electric cars, they would have to have a fairly high range for them to be their daily driver, their only vehicle, or to be their only vehicle. I daily drove a Nissan Leaf for years, and that only had an electric range of about 70 miles. I had my Subaru and Saab and motorcycle. What the f? I have my Subaru and Saab to do other stuff with. So the cost of the vehicle itself, I bought a Nissan Leaf for $11,000, and it was a great daily driver for the 4 or 5 years I had it. So the cost of an electric vehicle, especially when you factor in depreciation of a new electric vehicle, is not that bad. You can go out right now and buy a relatively new Chevy Bolt for about $18,000 and get about 230 miles on a charge. So it's not that bad. Then again, here's my thing. I might like electric cars. I love driving them. I think they're super convenient, and I love not going to the gas station. But at the same token, I like having the option to know that if I want to, I can go buy a gasoline 5-speed manual car and go rip around the roads or like ride my motorcycle around. So to lose the option is what kind of makes me sad. Granted, 2035 is quite a ways off, and to be completely honest, most manufacturers will have electric offerings for the sports enthusiast market. The question is, will they have a manual? Probably not, but manuals are kind of dying off as it is. And as sad as that makes me, like, it's kind of inevitable. Out of my friends, I think me and Steven, who you've seen on this channel before with his I'm So Rocky, are the only people who drive manual, or who know how to drive manual. I don't think he owns a manual car, but he knows how to drive stick. So overall, like, finding people who are willing to go out their way to buy a manual is fairly hard to do. As far as the enthusiast market as well, I feel like people in my generation, I was born in 95, so that makes me a younger millennial, don't really give a shit about cars. I'm gonna be honest. Like, the only car guys I know is me and Steven, and then the car guys I meet in car meets and stuff. But I'm pretty sure you can't, like, most new cars you can't even buy with a manual. Like, let's take, a Camry for example. You can't get a Camry with a manual. You can't get Tacoma with a manual anymore. Ford doesn't offer manual in, like, their Escapes, their Fusions. The Mustang is the only car they have left that has a stick, I think. Holy shit, the Mustang is the only car Ford has left that has a stick. Well, the Bronco, that's going to have a stick too. But the F-150 doesn't have a stick option. None of the F-Series do. Escape doesn't. The Mustang and the Bronco are the only two cars Ford will be making that'll have a stick. And, like, if you go on OfferUp or whatever and try to find a car with a manual, it's almost impossible. It's coming to the point where a manual car actually demands a premium now, which is really kind of sad to see. As most people I know aren't really into doing the effort of modifying cars, working on them, and they don't really have the technical or mechanical knowledge necessary to keep up a hobby like that. And most of them don't even have the will to learn, so I feel like car guys are kind of going to be a super rare breed moving forward, which is super sad, but I mean, what are you going to do, right? So, as far as the law itself is concerned, it makes sense, right? California has the dirtiest air in the country. It's the most polluting state in the country. Overall, the state just has too many people and too dense a population center to maintain a large amount of gasoline vehicles. But honestly, I don't like the law because I like to have the option. I like to have the choice. I'd rather have them, like, give incentives, which they kind of already do, but like maybe take a more extreme level. But honestly, to see them do this is kind of sad. Because let's be realistic here, California is already a state that's almost like overly prohibitive to live in, unless you're making a large amount of money. That's why we're seeing such a large exodus of people in California to Vegas. Also, if you're from California and thinking to move to Vegas, go to Arizona. We're full. We're running out of space. Seriously. Like, there's literally no houses left in Nevada. We can't build them fast enough. You guys keep moving out here. Please stop. Please. Arizona. We don't want to end up like California, that's for sure. And not to mention, we have a very finite water supply. In case you guys forgot, we are a city in the middle of the desert, and our water comes from a lake. But yeah, like, when it comes to the overall cost to consumers, electric cars are much cheaper in the long run. Once you add in the cost of, or the expense of buying the vehicle, the operating costs and everything like that. But at the same time, high-range vehicles like a Tesla Model S or Chevy Bolt, albeit are still more expensive. Granted, that's gonna change soon. Okay, so the overall cost of an electric vehicle is going down, right? They are getting cheaper on the used market as the days go by. A used Nissan Leaf will run you around $7,000. The Chevy Bolt that gets around 200 miles per charge will cost you about $18,000. Right? So the cost, especially by 2035, I feel like electric vehicles will be as common and ambiguous to the point where the cost won't be a big issue. But at the same time, like, whenever you take people's choice away, that's not a good move, right? Granted, I guess California has always been an overly restrictive, overly regulated state, and I don't know. It just seems kind of pointless. I know every single one of my cars is already illegal in California, whether it be like tires sticking out too much or too low or too high or bumpers too big or some kind of bullshit California only law. I'm pretty sure the exhaust on every single one of my cars is illegal in California. I would never move to California, not even for money. I'd rather start a business out here. Considering also starting a business in California is prohibitively expensive, especially when it comes to regulations and stuff like that. Overall, I understand why they're doing this. I don't agree with it, but I understand it, and it makes sense. That being said, my big fear is it's gonna, when California stops something or makes a law happen, it affects every single state, mainly because California, I believe, makes up about 11 or 10% of overall vehicle sales in the US, or no, overall vehicle registrations. So it is the biggest car market in the States. And it does make sense to design a model and build a model vehicle that cannot be sold in the biggest car market in the state or in the country. So that plus 35 other countries have also done the same thing when it comes to banning gasoline vehicles after a certain date. So it's going to become a more and more commonplace thing. As far as the repercussions go, again, it only affects vehicles that are sold new. But let's be honest, after about 25 years, you can't find a car over 25 years. So that, people gotta start hoarding and saving all the manual gas cars. Seriously. I'm not saying that electric cars aren't as good. Performance-wise, they're always better. Right? They accelerate faster. Tesla has a new Model S that can do 200 mile an hour and have a 500 mile range. And that technology will eventually trickle down into a smaller, more economical automobiles, especially as the cost of battery production decreases. But there's a rush to driving a gas car, right? There is a real rush. If California bans new vehicle sales, that means pretty soon the number of gas stations are going to drop as well. So not only will maintaining a gasoline vehicle become prohibitively expensive or hard to do based off scarcity of parts, just finding fuel will be harder. So overall, I guess that's my general opinion and consensus. I don't like it. I agree with it. It makes me sad, but also to step forward, right? I guess that's the thing about progress. You kind of tend to leave guys like me a little wanting. Anyway, if you like this video, hit like. If you want to see more stuff like this, well, most of my stuff is fixing old beat-up gas cars and doing dumb shit with them. The Drift Mustang is coming along pretty well. Not really. I still have the transmission out of it. I'm waiting to get the money to buy a rebuild kit and stuff. That being said, yeah, that's about it. Have a good one, guys. Be safe. Socially distance, wear a mask, all that shit. And, yeah, do whatever you do on the internet.